there were quite a few old patterns that came. And I just kind of watched them like a ticker tape go by. So that was quite, that was interesting.
Now, use that metaphor. As a ticker tape go by compared to what?
Compared to engaging in conversation, you know, engaging with the inner critic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not even maybe not even inner critic, but just and just an evaluation of things that I knew I wasn't including in my nutritional program and that I was eating. And I just, you know, just let it go, just let it go, just let it go.
Yeah.
And it was more like information.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I think it's like so it's always like structure. It's you and something, you and it's a relationship, you and something. And that something popped up, and rather than grabbing onto it, making it personal, attaching to it, you as a ticker tape, let it float by and just observed it. Like, oh, wow, there's that pattern. And so in that pattern, you were a different observer of that pattern.
That's right.
The force of that pattern didn't suck you in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you've still got the remnants of it. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about 2 sessions that I had this week with the same client. And I must say that I've been quite surprised, very pleasantly surprised at how much she got to. So she's the one I told you that got information about her parent, her one parent, and then it kind of brought up memories that she had, but had not thought about for a very long time. You know, it hadn't
tapes.
Really, yeah. And the information, it's a kind of information that is very difficult to reconcile with the person that you have as a parent. And because the value system comes into it until you realize that it's not just due to values. But that's where people go right from the beginning, because it had impacted on people that she really loves, and in a very bad way. So we managed to get leave from her work, which was really nice. I was really pleased about them. They were wonderful. All they wanted was a letter from me or from her GP. And we had a plan in place. And I knew that the rest, the physical rest, was going to be important for her. And I thought, even if she just has that. And then I said, but we have to meet twice a week. And we checked in with work after 2 weeks. And now she's going back this week. And these last 2 sessions, there's just been this huge, it's a bit like, I would say, what Nikki has experienced. Not only in, like with Nikki, it's been very much a focus on her self-image. This has been that included with the relationship that she has with her dad. So, I mean, it always includes both, well, not both, but it always includes our background, which inevitably includes family. But I was quite aghast, because I really didn't know how much she would be able to bring in. And there was so much from her past that she'd completely forgotten about. That was hugely significant. They're very big traumatic events that she has kind of learned to just push aside, push down.
Yep.
And I knew that they were there because I saw her for the first time 10 years ago. And then she was with me for about a year. It was just after a sibling of hers had died. And then she went off. And then when she wanted to come back, I was too ill at that point. So she went to other therapists. And then in last year, she contacted me again, and she said that she just can't get anywhere with other people. And she's training herself to be a therapist. And could she please come? So I started with her again. And what was interesting for me was that she went back to that first year. She started to remember when she first came to me. And she's what she's doing at the moment is integrating her experience of why she felt like she could do better work with me than what she could with other therapists. What that space is for her, so she could define that. And then what her inner critic does, what her next steps are in terms of her parent, the dilemma in terms of having the education to understand that it's an illness, and then the violations that took place for her personally. And in all my work with her, this is the first time that I've heard her talk herself through that stuff. So I think what I'm trying also to get to here is, what is it from that first time in therapy 10 years ago to here that is still valuable for her? And I know what that is. And then also just appreciating her own capacity to have done what she did do in these last 10 years, because she did a lot. But I think in the end, honestly, it comes back down to the space that we hold and where we encourage the focus to be in conversation with our clients. And that you've helped me a lot with that. So my default was always to have emotion as the coordinates. And what I've got much more now, even though I had the concept, and with her it was easy to do, the concept of soul. I don't know that I could integrate it as well then as I can now. I'm still, I haven't finished. There's no doubt about that. But it's much more readily available. And it looks so low. Sorry, Jess.
I was going to take a moment and feed that back. What I heard you saying is that you're listening more for the soul.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. I think I thought about it more in terms of how to facilitate the experience of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that, because I haven't been able to do that before. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I could speak to it, but I couldn't facilitate that experience to it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't facilitate that bridge to it.
Yep.
But with all of this also, because I've been obviously been thinking about her a lot, and I come back to that thing also again about when we find a way with somebody or with ourselves, it's incredibly valuable. There's no doubt about it. But I have to always remember that it's not going to necessarily work in the same way for the next person that comes along. Because it's always about timing, about where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then what to,
and where you're at.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah, that is why a one size fits all doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it's if you're searching for their souls, for the voice of their soul, you can't go wrong.
Mm. Mm.
On burrito? Burrito?
Thanks so much, Emma. Yeah, you can't you can't go wrong. If you're listening for the soul, that you're oh God, I've got a lot going on in my head. I can't put words to it. There's so for me, there's still obviously a lack of clarity for myself in being able to discern between the soul and the ego, for want of better terms, the operations of the ego.
Okay, good.
And then how do you respond so that you can talk to the soul and not to the ego, or be aware of speaking directly to the soul, so that the ego doesn't what? I don't know.
What I'll call attention to is the separation.
Yeah, well, there is a separation for me.
And there isn't.
Well, because the ego not ostensibly, the ego doesn't exist, but it has implications.
Mm-hmm.
And it has impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it drives. It guides. Yeah. I mean, if we all think about it, it is the driver of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so so the starting position is, we can assume that that's where people are at until they prove us otherwise.
Mm.
Because we all know, right, we'll be better off when the soul is driving.
Yes.
So that's what we look for. And you know just as good as anyone what to look for in that. And it's, are you expanding or contracting? And that's when you hear it in their voice.
Oh, so that's what it is. Okay, thank you.
So it's always what it is. Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was just my imagination. Not just my imagination, but I thought it was maybe just an old pattern that needed to change, and I'm okay with it. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back down to sound, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful sound. It is either just a noise.
Yes. And if it's just a noise, what's missing?
Harmony.
Awareness. Yep. The key point, right? Key point.
Yeah.
And then I think the harmony is the information, right? That's the feedback. That's their resonance, resonating.
Yeah, because noise is also feedback.
Mhm. I think and then there's awareness of like, oh, what am I interpreting? If I'm checking into the feedback, that's another layer.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
And what I can see, right, for like most of us, we're not listening to the other person, we're listening to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to listen through ourselves.
Mm-hmm. But so then it's like that's parking the ego.
If you can, yes.
Yeah, we all can. We all can. Our pattern is not to.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. Yeah.
Awareness. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah. Mm. she she had such a lovely moment where she processed something, and then she looked at me, she said, why has that taken me so long to I think she used the word unhook. And I said to her, some of us just have stronger Velcro than others. And I don't know why that metaphor has come back for me. I used to think about that years ago, long, long, long time ago. And lately it's just kind of come back again, about how things stick, and how sometimes you want it to stick. It's marvelous when it sticks, because it keeps something solid and together, and you can move with it. And then other times it holds you back. And it was what was really nice too with what she was sharing was that I could give her an example of being a woman in her 60s, as opposed to when I was in her position, and how things that she's questioning now, I still question as a therapist. And to to say to her, those are the things, although they leave us feeling rather uncomfortable, but those are the things that keep us the most open and honest, in inverted commas. But I think it is an honesty. They keep us honest in ourselves, and that gives space because of that resonance of people feel that, and it provides so much more space for people when they come in and join you. Because she had these really awful self-talk, inner critic stuff going on, which I hadn't, like, I hadn't tried to do anything about at this point, you know, because there was this other information, and so that was kind of going to be the focus in terms of her having the time to work through those emotions. And then, of course, you know, as she did, those emotions are so prevalent. Those trauma emotions are so prevalent in the inner critic, you know, as time goes ahead, because you've carried those, right? Because you haven't been able to repattern the trauma.
Mhm. There's only a few of them in there.
Yeah. But they come in different words, hey, Jess?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they come with different defenses. And
Uh-huh.
that, you know, it was really useful to have the change triangle. And what I realized also was that what's wonderful about that for me is that when I write to Hillary now, I can, you know, other than just saying that I refer my clients to her website, I can talk about what I think or why I think introducing structure, you know, in that teaching could be so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what, without me like kind of repeating stuff about structure with my client, because I explained it to her about 3 months ago, I think. In this period with her taking leave, she's referred back to it, and so now we started talking about it more. And she could say, you know, she said to me, she said, now I can think about the now and where I want to be, and not just the now and where I have been.
Yep. Yep.
I'm really happy for her.
That is a structure that's baked in that works.
Mm. Mm.
If our past was positive, that would, our structure of looking to the back, looking backwards would work. But it's not. We take to the past, we take our baggage. We don't bring our baggage to where we want to be.
Mm.
To what we want, we don't bring baggage with it. It's clear, it's a creation, it's a blank canvas. That's where we want to be. So if you think of like structure as a simple question with that tension already, that force behind it already, momentum and expanding, that's why looking at from where I am right now, it's all we got. Me as the observer to one point in the future where I want to be. And then the triangle shows up into, now I'm going to break it out into a category, I'm going to label it into what do I really want? You know, that becomes the third point. And really, when we pull that apart and say, all I want is the feeling of it, that's the connection between where we want to be and what we have now, realizing we can have it now.
Mm. Mm.
So she's working structure. It sounds to me like she's working a 3-point structure, which is a complex structure.
Mm.
Which means, we can just simplify one line of a triangle.
Mm.
One leg of a triangle. There's 3 legs to a triangle.
Mm.
Right? The structure only needs 2 points, which is 1 leg.
Mm.
And in every triangle, in every change triangle, you are always present. That's one point.
Hmm.
It's always you as the observer.
And now.
And now, that's right. And now, and then the charge, the force, the emotion. It's those three things. Those are a complex structure in the present of the most powerful starting position there is.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yes. Oh.
And then we ask, which direction do we want to go?
Mm.
Forwards or backwards? And when we think about forwards, what always happens when we think about forwards? Falling forward.
Mm.
What do we always think about forward?
Unknown.
Good. I had better.
Oh. Yeah.
And so, and that's the beauty of it, right? It's how do we relate to something? And that's where we are now. Yours is the unknown, and it's like for somebody that'll be scary.
Yes.
For someone else, that would be anticipation. And if you look at it, the two of those are exactly the same. It's just how we are taking them personal.
Yeah, how we interpreting them.
Yep. Between the 2 points.
Yeah.
And the 2 points is where we are now, and the word, the direction, future, right? Or the direction of unknown, or the better, right? Now, better and now, that's a structure. And there's a force between the two. There's a force in that space. It's either Velcro keeping you where you're at, or like and I'll call it resistance, right? Friction, there's the word. It's either friction or it's expanding, it's flowing. And if it's always better, then oh, there's a flowing structure, right? Rip the Velcro off, or the Velcro strapped to the flowing star.
Yeah, that's a good use of it. So again, it depends on where you place it, right?
So, which I think then becomes we're observing, oh, we observe our reality. That's what I'm thinking the next structure is the reality. And so much of the reality is the reflection of the past, that the reality is the finite and infinite. It's the structure between what was and what is. What could be, there it is. That's from the finite is what it is or what it was, and the infinite is what it could be.
Yes.
And as soon as you learn, like as soon as we begin to practice in the could be's, now we're creating rather than problem solving.
Yeah.
Now, creation in itself can be limiting, or here, creation is known or unknown. Those are the 2 points of creation.
Yeah, it's both, right? Because some things you do know and others you don't. Yeah. You know enough
And
to know that that's a direction you want to take.
that's right. And the known is always from the past. So I think those are the four important structures I've got right now. Time,
Okay.
force, and I'll call that space. Time, space. I've said that one before, but I've modified it to be force. It's like to look at the force of it, which is also charge of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the reality. Reality, is it finite or is it infinite? And then the creation is, what do I know and don't know? And the bridges between them.
So it's coming to mind for me in all of this is the power that there is when you've been able to embody the experience of your soul and to remember that that is what you have available to you with every single breath.
Yes.
And it takes awareness to remember that while you are on your journey of expansion, because you start out and I wouldn't say you start out, but not for everybody. Some people have it right from the beginning of their lives. For me, I had it in phases. And I'm really glad that I could experience this now in my 60s, because it seems to go so much deeper. And I think in my work, even though I work much less, where I work, the work is more solid, is more sustainable with the people that I work with. And so
Sustainability is a force.
yeah. And it's also a dance. Because there's movement in it. For things to be truly sustainable, they have to be able to move. There must be momentum in it.
Momentum is a force.
Yeah.
So often we think of force as the constriction, but it's not.
No.
Flowing is a force. Compelling, attracting, pulling towards, seduction, compel, those are forces.
Yeah.
Sustainable forces. Good is a sustainable force. So another word for structure is relationship. My related,
Yeah.
how am I related? I am related to something. Those are the 2 points. I am related to something, something out there. The space between us is between those two, the space between me and that something is the force, the space, the charge. Yeah. And we're either taking that charge, that space, that force, we're making it personal, which is the reality of it is finite, or it's expansive. It's flowing, it's moving, it's expanding, and in that, then it's infinite. That becomes our reality, becomes either finite or infinite. Yeah. And the last one is creation, creative. We call it problem solving, we call it, whether we know, if we know it, it comes from the past. And if we don't know it, it can be something new. What did all great aha moments come from?
New.
Not knowing. Yep.
Yeah.
So anytime we sit in, I know this, or I know where it's going to go, I'm that, it's like we're just bringing the past, the old way into the future.
Yeah.
Into the next moment. And that is finite, that is limited, that is friction. And when we ask, oh, how could it be? How could the next moment be? That is flowing, that is expansion, that is compelling, that is magnetizing, that is flowing. Flowing in the direction of the future, of the next moment of now. Flowing to what we want, how we want it. So that we are always observing our charge, our time, the direction in which we're going, the space between the two, ourselves and where we're off to, the reality that we are creating, and the reality that we can choose. So there's the choice in the creation.
Mm.
You sent me on structure, so I'm practicing my structure.
Mm. It's interesting, Jess, that training that I did, that I told you about, this woman in Canada, her couples therapy model is the most well researched out of any. She's been doing research for the last 30 years, I think. And her model is based on informing people of the structure in which they find themselves, because what she does is point to their patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so she points out to them that if they can come to understanding their patterns and are willing to go on a bit of a journey to, in therapy, to change them, and there'll be facilitation to help them to change it, then they can have a new marriage. And she talks about a new marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So without her,
See the intention, that becomes the intention, the flowing intention.
Yeah, and
that's the second point.
Yeah, I mean, what I found so interesting on reflecting, about it now is that she was talking about a creative structure without realizing that that's what she was doing. That she wasn't thinking in those terms. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or in that language, not in those terms. She was thinking in those terms, but not in that language.
Hmm.
But at the same and at the same time, she also was very clear about the fact that this type of therapy, that you had to screen for this work. You couldn't have people that were already out the door emotionally.
Hmm.
And you couldn't have people that were in an abusive relationship.
Boundaries for her,
Yeah.
right? In which she was willing to work with. And structure works in all of those. There's just a different, there's a different framework to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I must say, of all the trainings that I ever did, I mean, I valued a lot of most of the training that I did, I valued. It gave me an enormous amount. But hers was, that was like the biggest sense of relief, I think, that I'd ever felt in a training. Because it validated for me the importance of seeing people's behavior as something separate from what they specifically were at their core, first of all. And secondly, that you needed certain kind of vulnerability, no matter what dyad you were in, for real connection to take place. And she got that all through her research, her neuropsych research. And she could explain, so she explained in terms of how the body functions, why that is so. And how connection will, lies at the base of our growth. In both ways, of course, right? So that connection can be destructive or it can be facilitative.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you for today.
Thank you very
Mhm.
much. Very, very, very much. When do you
Yes,
guys
very much.
travel?
Wednesday, we'll leave Wednesday morning.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. Wednesday morning. Yep, so today, tomorrow, and then head out on Wednesday.
Have a great day tomorrow, Jess, with the kids, hey?
No, I will. Thank you. We'll be getting packed up, getting everything ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then go celebrate 4th of July and then hit the road.
Independence Day.
Independence Day. Yeah. Independence Day. Yeah, great being with you, Allison.
And you too. Thank you so much. This was
Thank you.
very valuable.
Good.
So
Me
have
too.
a good 3 weeks away.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Speak soon.